The next concept that I want to go over with you is the idea of relative major and minor keys, scales, and chords. You'll remember that the notes of the C major scale are these. There's another scale that shares those exact same notes, and that is the A minor scale. The only difference between the two scales is that if you're playing in the key of C major, you're going to focus more on the C, the E, and the G, whereas if you're playing in the key of A minor, you'll focus more on the A, C, E. So it's all a matter of which notes you're lingering on, which notes you're targeting when you're playing the two scales. The A minor scale is what's known as the relative minor scale to the C major scale. Every major scale has a relative minor scale and vice versa, meaning that the same notes can be found in both scales. One way you can figure out what the relative minor key is for a major key is by finding the sixth degree of the major scale. So for instance, if we were in the key of C major and we wanted to know what the relative minor key is, then we would start with the first degree of the scale, that's C, the second degree is D, third degree is E, the fourth degree is F, the fifth degree is G, and the sixth degree is A. That would tell us that the relative minor key, or the relative minor scale, or the relative minor chord is A minor. The move from a major chord to its relative minor chord has a distinctive sound which you should learn to recognize by ear. It sounds like this. A lot of old rock and roll songs from the 1950s incorporate that move into chord progressions. For example, something like this. Here I was going from the 1 chord to the 6 chord, which would be C to A minor in this case, to the 4 chord, F, to the 5th chord, G. I pointed out previously that the major key contains 3 major chords and 3 minor chords. It just so happens that the 3 minor chords are the relative minor chords to the 3 major chords. So for instance, the 1 chord is always major, and its relative minor chord is the 6th chord. The 4 chord is always major, and its relative minor chord is the 2 chord. The 5 chord is always major, and its relative minor chord is the 3rd chord. It might be helpful to group the major and minor chords together in your head so that the 1 chord and the 6 chord are paired together, the 4 and the 2 are paired together, and the 5 and the 3 are paired together. I would also recommend that you memorize these common relative major-minor chord pairs: C major and A minor, G major and E minor, F major and D minor, D major and B minor, A major and F sharp minor, and E major and C sharp minor.